Eurozone households reduced their savings rate to 15.3% in Q3. China's exports rise 10.7% in December. And 6 EU member states urge the temporary lifting of sanctions on Syria. Welcome to Qnews Economic Bulletin, where we present the latest developments shaping the global economy, from key market trends and financial updates to regional economic highlights and forecasts. We bring you essential news and analysis to keep you informed. Welcome back, and we start off with the International Monetary Fund, as its managing director, Kristalina Georgieva, has announced that the fund will project steady global growth and continued disinflation in its updated World Economic Outlook on January the 17th. Georgieva noted the U.S. economy is performing better than expected. She highlighted uncertainty surrounding President-elect Donald Trump's trade policies, which are contributing to global economic headwinds and higher long-term interest rates. Canada's outgoing Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has warned of retaliatory tariffs if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump raises tariffs on imports. Trudeau emphasized the economic impact such as tariffs would have on American consumers and jobs. Trump's proposed 25% tariff targets on Canada's largest trading partner, with a $55 billion trade deficit in 2024. Trudeau stressed that Canada would respond, potentially targeting commodities like oil and uranium. In Europe, Eurostat has reported that Eurozone households reduced their savings rate to 15.3% in the third quarter from 15.6% in the second quarter, remaining above pre-pandemic levels of 12 to 13%. Elevated savings have slowed consumption and limited growth, with investment in fixed capital like housing falling to 9.1% to disposable income. While consumption rose by 1.1%, the European Central Bank expects high savings to persist due to economic uncertainties. It added that corporate profitability in the Eurozone rebounded after declining throughout 2023, but overall recovery remains sluggish. The European Central Bank's chief economist, Philip Lane, has said that the bank plans further rate cuts in 2024 while avoiding recession or delayed inflation control. Lane warned against cutting rates too quickly, risking high services inflation or keeping them high too long, which could slow inflation below the 2% target. With wage growth easing and inflation at 2.4% in December, Lane ruled out the need for a recession, aiming for a balanced approach to stabilize the economy and meet inflation goals by mid-2025. For his part, European Central Bank Governing Council member Olli Rehn said that the bank should continue to reduce borrowing costs regardless of actions taken by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Speaking in Hong Kong, Rehn emphasized that the bank's decisions are based on its mandate to ensure price stability in the Eurozone and are not influenced by the Fed. Rand suggested that despite inflation rising for a third consecutive month in December, the bank's rate cuts are on track, with further reductions expected in the coming months. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has outlined plans to position the UK as a global leader in artificial intelligence, emphasizing a pro-innovation regulatory approach. At University College London, Starmer committed to making public data available to researchers and creating zones for data centers to support AI growth.
Our ambition is not just to be an AI superpower, but also make sure that this benefits working people. And that, of course, starts with jobs and investment in every part of the country. So I'm really pleased here today to announce that Kyndryl are investing in a new technology hub in Liverpool. Now, that alone will create 1,000 new jobs. And also that Nscale are investing £2 billion and Vantage data centres, another £12 billion, making £14 billion of new investment in data centres across the UK, creating another 12,000 jobs.
Morgan McKinley's London Employment Monitor has revealed that job vacancies in London's financial sector fell nearly 20% in the fourth quarter of 2024 on a quarterly basis, hitting the lowest level since June 2020. The 3,664 job postings also marked a 12% year-on-year decline, with total vacancies in 2024 down 28% compared to 2023. Morgan McKinley's Mark Asbury attributed the decline to economic volatility, geopolitical uncertainty, and rapid technological changes. A separate CBI survey revealed UK financial firms' business optimism fell sharply in Q4, with concerns over increased costs from Britain's autumn budget. Austria's far-right Freedom Party of Austria leader and likely next Chancellor Herbert Kiel has unveiled a Euro 6.3 billion plan to prevent European Union deficit procedures.
Wir haben eine Grundsatzentscheidung getroffen und einen gemeinsamen Fahrplan entwickelt, ein EU-Defizitverfahren gegen Österreich abzuwenden. Alle diesbezüglichen Schritte in Richtung der Europäischen Union werden jetzt gerade, während wir hier zu Ihnen sprechen, gestartet. Das ist der Feuerwehreinsatz, von dem ich gesprochen habe vor ein paar Tagen und der notwendig ist, einen Flächenbrand zu verhindern.
In Asia, China's exports rose 10.7% in December, driven by trade front-loading as businesses rushed to ship goods before potential U.S. tariff hikes under President-elect Donald Trump. Imports grew by 1%, the strongest performance since July 2024. China's trade surplus widened to $104.8 billion in December, and exports grew by 5.9% in 2024. Despite this, analysts caution that trade patterns could shift due to tariff threats, with imports still showing modest growth. The government is targeting a 5% growth rate for 2025, bolstered by stimulus measures and a more proactive fiscal policy. China is boosting foreign exchange reserves in Hong Kong and raising offshore borrowing limits for companies to support the yuan, which is near a 16-month low. The central bank's efforts are aimed at supporting the yuan's value and maintaining economic stability despite pressure from the U.S. presidential transition and looming tariff risks. The People's Bank of China has also suspended treasury bond purchases while planning significant bill insurances in Hong Kong to manage currency stability and bond yields. 6 EU member states, including Germany, France, and the Netherlands, have urged the bloc to temporarily lift sanctions on Syria in areas such as transport, energy, and banking. A document revealed that the proposal will be discussed by EU foreign ministers on January the 27th in Brussels. It includes measures to facilitate civilian flights, reopen financial channels, and lift bans on oil and gas technologies, while keeping sanctions on members of the former Assad administration in place. The US, EU, and others have imposed strict sanctions on Syria in response to the instability since 2011. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has stated that any decision to ease sanctions on Syria would depend on the new administration's commitment to inclusive governance and ensuring there is no radicalization. Speaking at a Syria summit in Riyadh, Kallas highlighted that the EU's approach would evolve based on Syria's progress, with potential next steps or reversals in easing sanctions. Kallas also announced that the European foreign ministers would meet later in January to discuss the sanctions regime.
Syria's economy has been struggling under years of tough international sanctions that have hit key sectors like banking, energy, and transport. These restrictions have dried up foreign investment, slowed production, and cut off access to global markets, leaving the economy in a fragile state. The impact has been felt across the country, with poverty reaching 69% in the population in 2022, according to the World Bank, and more than a quarter of Syrians living in extreme poverty. Easing sanctions could open the door to economic recovery. It might help revive industries, boost agricultural and industrial production, and attract much-needed foreign investment. Reopening financial channels and allowing the import of technology and goods could also create new opportunities for growth. EU foreign ministers are set to meet on January 27th to discuss relaxing sanctions, with an eye on how it could support Syria's economic rebuilding. While challenges remain, lifting some restrictions could mark a turning point for a country eager to get its economy back on track.
And joining us from Damascus is Syrian analyst Mr. Hussein Talib to discuss the latest developments related to lifting the sanctions on Syria and its impact on the Syrian economy. Welcome to the Economic Bulletin here on Qnews, sir. And let me start by asking you, what are the key sectors that have been most affected by the international sanctions on Syria, and how has this impacted the overall economy in the country?
At the outset, good evening and for you and your viewers. All the basic sectors, the energy, oil or electricity has been affected by the sanctions imposed on Syria. Before the sanctions were imposed on the regime, but it was controlling Syria, ruling Syria. And now the population is highly affected. The electricity, energy sectors are completely destroyed. The oil sector is also destroyed. And there are sanctions on the medical and supplies and equipments in hospitals. Some hospitals got out of service since the start of imposing these sanctions. We have destroyed the medical infrastructures, and we cannot develop or improve our hospitals even through the humanitarian aids. Even the sponsors that are supporting Syria are being sanctioned. The transportation sector is highly deteriorated, the water sector as well, the road networks. So we are facing a completely destroyed country. If these sanctions are not alleviated or eased very soon, we are going to face a real crisis here.
So how would lifting the sanctions specifically help revive industries in Syria, and which industries stand to benefit the most?
In fact, the first industries that are going to benefit from easing the sanctions is agriculture. We will be able to restore the agriculture activity, and we are known in this regard. We had about $2 to $3 billion annually from agricultural crops that are exported to the neighboring countries. So agriculture is highly important and will activate and revive this industry. Investors will have more confidence in our systems, and we will be able to improve and enhance the hospitals and the medical sectors in Syria after easing the sanctions. The economic sector will witness a recovery, and that will encourage investors to come back to Syria. Now we have eliminated unemployment before. We will be able to establish new projects to eliminate unemployment that will directly affect the Syrian population. The instability result in chaos and terrorism, but if we receive the right amount of investments and easing the sanctions, we will have a continuous work and action to achieve prosperity for the Syrian economy on all levels: the agriculture, industry, oil sectors. We are going to talk about a stable state, not a state threatening the security and stability of the entire region.
So what role could foreign investments play in Syria's economic recovery if sanctions are actually eased? And how quickly do you think that we could see tangible improvements?
In fact, the investment mechanism in Syria is an improvement mechanism. Syria is really behind on technology-wise, medically wise, and agriculture-wise. Even now in Syria, we have very primitive tools. Primitive mechanisms. The irrigation systems are very primitive and basic. We have deteriorated sanitation networks that are causing environmental issues and pollution. So the foreign investment factor will contribute to the Syrian progress, supporting the youth and young people of the population. They all need employment and work. We have 80% unemployment rate. 80% of the unemployed population, from males and females, will find job opportunities in case of foreign investment supporting projects. My wife, for instance, is an engineer and she cannot find a job because there are no companies. We have doctors and physicians who cannot find suitable jobs. We have a lot of cadres and qualifications that are in the scientific and industrial fields who are not able to find any jobs because of lack of investment. We are a poor and destroyed state, and we really need and require these foreign investment projects that are going to be profitable for us. We do not have mechanisms or tools for improvement. We need foreign partners to be able to achieve prosperity for Syria. The foreign investment is really important. It will generate new revenue streams for Syria and will help recover the Syrian economy, and most importantly, eliminate unemployment, finding new jobs and creating new jobs for workers, laborers on all levels.
So can you explain the connection between easing sanctions and the potential for job creation in Syria, since you mentioned the problem of unemployment? Which sectors are most likely to see job growth and provide more job opportunities?
when we talk about foreign investment, this investment will be at the level, at the nationwide level. When we talk about reconstruction, we start with infrastructure. And this infrastructure improvements will require labor and qualifications and technology. The labor and the personnel for this infrastructure improvement will be from inside Syria. So we start with reconstructing the infrastructure. If we're talking about a reconstruction of a village in the countryside of Damascus, we have the workforce, we have the labor force for the reconstruction. It will provide jobs for the unemployed. For instance, one village would have like 2,000 young men and women that will contribute to reconstructing their homeland. It will be a national to reconstruct the Syrian economy and provide job opportunities. I'm talking about all sectors, the economic sector, the medical sector. This will bring new equipment, new tools. We do not have the sufficient funds to import these tools or mechanisms. Even if the conflict stops, we need equipment, medical equipment for dialysis, for operation room equipment, all hospital equipments. That we have doctors, physicians, tens of thousands of physicians without work because we do not have hospitals. That's why we notice a lot of migration from Syria. Why do doctors leave Syria? Because there are no job opportunities here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussein Talib, for your insights. And we go back to our news. Oman and Saudi Arabia have signed a memorandum of understanding to strengthen cooperation in the financial sector. The MOU was signed by Omani Finance Minister Sultan Salim Al Habsi and Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Abdullah Al Jaddan. The agreement aims to enhance bilateral ties, share expertise, and align on regional and international financial matters. Key focus areas include financial policy development, public data analysis, regulatory streamlining, and promoting good governance practices. This collaboration is expected to boost the financial systems of both nations. In the energy sector, the Kremlin says that new U.S. sanctions targeting Russia's energy sector could destabilize global oil markets. The spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow would take steps to minimize the impact, calling the measures illegal and non-competitive. The U.S. Treasury expanded sanctions last week, targeting producers Gazprom, Neft, and others, along with 183 vessels involved in shipping Russian oil. The move aims to cut Russia's revenues for financing its war in Ukraine, with officials estimating potential losses of billions of dollars per month. Oil extended gains for a third session on Monday, with Brent crude rising above $80 a barrel to its highest in more than 4 months, driven by wider U.S. sanctions on Russian oil and the expected effects on exports to top buyers, India and China. Brent crude futures gained 0.9% to $80.47 a barrel after hitting the highest level since August 27th at $81.68. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures advanced 1.2% to $77.51 a barrel after touching its highest since August 15th at $78.58. Gold prices dipped on Monday as the U.S. dollar soared to an over 2-year high after a robust jobs report last week cemented expectations. The Federal Reserve will proceed with caution with cutting interest rates this year. Spot gold was down 0.7% to $2,670.86 per ounce. U.S. gold futures were 0.9% lower to $2,689.80. In markets, world stocks retreated on Monday after U.S. stocks fell as good news on the job market added to inflation worries. The future for the S&P 500 dropped 0.56% and the Nasdaq lost 1.26%, while that of the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.36%. In European trading, Germany's DAX declined 0.24% and the CAC 40 in Paris was down 0.19%. Britain's FTSE 100 fell 0.18%. In Asia markets, in Japan were closed for a holiday. Hong Kong's Hang Seng dropped 1%, while the Shanghai Composite lost 0.25%. And that's all for now. Here is a wrap-up of what we have covered. Eurozone households reduced their savings rate to 15.3% in Q3. China's exports rise 10.7% in December. And 6 EU member states urge the temporary lifting of sanctions on Syria. And this concludes our economic bulletin. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.